Been told we're not recording. Good, love that. Okay. Yeah, when you signed up for the practice summit, you didn't realize it was going to be literally a practice summit. We're practicing this. Here we go. Let's talk about playing faster. So, yeah, half of practicing is failing. Yeah, we're 2 for 2 here. Thank you, Tina. I appreciate that. That's very good. All right. So, you're probably wondering why you should learn about this from me. So, I'm a fiddler. I play all over the place for dancing, performing as a soloist with symphonies. I'm the music director of the San Francisco Scottish Fiddlers, and I have 25 years of experience helping adults learn music. I'm the founder, teacher, and curriculum designer at AltStringsAcademy.com, which you've heard about already. It's a community where I help adult string players meet their goals in technique, musicianship, and style. So, playing fast, keeping up with the group, the jam session, the dance can often be a struggle for adults learning music. We may not be sure how to approach it, improving it, other than like just do it a bunch more times and hope it gets better. But of course, like we know what they say about a person who does the same thing a bunch of times and expects a different result each time, right? So instructions for how to play faster are likely to sound an awful lot like how to play more easily and comfortably, or how to sound better with less effort, or how to learn music more deeply. And there's a reason for that. That's actually the thing that we're aiming for. If you do those things more reliably, play with less physical effort, make it easy to play your instrument, you really know the music well, and you hone the connection between those two things, you will be able to play faster. So you're probably wondering how to work on that, right? So I would like to humbly suggest a framework, a shopping list of sorts to make sure you've got the pieces in place. This is the LEAP framework. L and E are for the physical side, and A and P are for the musical and mental side. L is for loosen up and let go. So when you first go to play, or even before you play, I recommend doing this. You do a body scan to find tension in your body and breathe into it. Where in your body are you gripping? What's tense? You also want to know, when in the music do you grip? You want to continue to do this scan as you're playing, right? Is there something in the music that makes you tense up? Or for example, do you play in the shape of good posture, like, oh, I have a straight wrist, but it's like a straight wrist that I'm holding straight, right? Or, you know, it's like it's straight, but it's too tense, right? That's a way to do that. So you want to be aware of that. Loosen up, breathe into it. It's hard to do the opposite of something, isn't it? But the practice of release is the one that you want to cultivate. You also want to look for what musical or technical things are causing tension. For example, a staccato or martelé stroke, right? Are you doing, for this string players, right? This is going to be a very string heavy technique type of a talk here. Do more of an unaffected stop, so you take your foot off the gas rather than hitting the brakes. If you want to stop your bow suddenly, you don't want to squeeze it down like that. That's going to create tension, and it's going to make sort of a crunching sound. Are there shifts or hard passages coming up that you're afraid of? You want to be on the lookout for that. Where in the music can you shed tension? Where in your body can you shed tension? I was talking with Daniel Delaney, who's the next up to give a talk. We were talking about sort of the hallmarks of mature technique, and one of those is how well and how often and how reliably can you get back to neutral once you've built up tension. But there are some things that you need to be able to hold chords down or something like that, where you like actually need to put a little bit more effort in, but can you loosen up afterwards? In your left hand, when you get to open strings, absolutely no reason to be squeezing your fingers while you're playing an open string, right? First and second finger, you can settle your hand back this way or this way if you have a cello. When you reach up for higher fingers, can you relax your lower fingers? What about mental tension? Do you go into fight or flight when the music gets going too fast? I have a good way to practice this actually. If you turn on your metronome and you just hear your music in your head, we're going to talk more about hearing music in your head. It's very important. If you turn the metronome on at the speed that you're hearing the music, and then you just crank up the metronome really fast, does your heart rate go up with it? Do you start going, it's fast, right? So that's actually a good way to practice it, is turn up the metronome and then practice calming down and going, oh, that's really fast, but you know what? It's okay. That's not a tiger chasing me. I'm fine. I'm fine. So that's loosen up and let go. E is for efficiency and ergonomics. This is where we examine your choreography. In the right arm, are you in a good part of the bow to do this passage? Are you trying to play fast notes like at the frog, moving your whole arm around, or can you move to the middle where you can just open and close your arm? String crossings. I mean, string crossings can basically almost always be more efficient or better choreographed, right? A lot of times, especially if we're using a lot of bow to play, we tend to use a lot of bow to change strings, but no matter how loud or soft or fast or slow you're playing, your strings are the same distance from each other the whole time. So you want to make sure that you're changing one variable at a time when you're practicing string changes, string crossings. So you want to move your bow less vertically this way, get your arm in the right place. In AltStrings Academy, we talk about different gears for changing strings that we have different uses for. So that's something that you can explore, being very efficient this way, and still just changing that amount of movement versus the amount of bow that you're using. On your left hand, are your fingers flying away from the strings, or are they hovering nearby? Are you shifting your weight up and down through your hand to accommodate different things that your left hand has to do? Right, we talked about this in the L is for let go, like that. But a body in motion is going to be less likely to be held up tense like that. So that's a thing that you want to explore your approach to the instrument. If you found like one right way to hold it, then you're probably going to be stiff and stuck. You want to cultivate the movement. Both arms, can you break the little bit that you're working on down into pieces? Like, can you do just the open strings to choreograph that and check in on the amount of bow you're using, where you are in the bow, what your string changes look like? Or can you do just the left hand? Maybe you can do pizzicato, or even better, just the left hand all by itself, so you can coordinate. Are you swinging the hammock, screwing in the light bulb, doing your left hand spider push-ups to shift your weight that way? All of these things are things that they're little pieces that you can change that make a big difference if you can incorporate them into the music that you're playing. Remember, if you can make it easier, you can play it faster. That's more often than not, I find that we're just working too hard. So you want to use L and E to help you make it easier. Your goal in this part of the LEAP framework is to be a scientific researcher. I want you to listen carefully to the sounds you make and observe carefully what you are doing with your body to make those sounds. That's worth repeating. Listen carefully to the sounds you make. You might even close your eyes. We're very visual creatures as humans, so you take that sense off the table. You can listen carefully to the sounds you make and observe carefully what you were doing with your body to make those sounds. You want to try to figure out then how they connect, right? The sound that you made versus what you did, right? How do they connect? And crucially, you got to try to remember what it feels like to make the sounds that you're hearing. Good sounds, bad sounds, doesn't matter. It's how does it feel when I do this? How does it feel? And when I feel like this, it makes this sound. That's so crucial. That's gonna not only help you with whatever piece you're working on, whatever little bit of music you're working on, but it's really going to help your everything about your playing. Your intonation will improve, your tone will improve, your ability to memorize things will improve. That connection, honing that connection between what you hear in your head and how it feels. So you need to memorize what it feels like to play in a relaxed and efficient way. That's your goal. No big deal, right? Yeah. It's a practice, right? It's a practice. It goes on and on. So okay, as we continue, moving on to the mental and musical side of things. A is for audiation. Audiation is hearing the music in your head. It's like brain humming, right? You're using the auditory part of your brain to follow the music, to create the music in your head. The thing about audiation is that this is what you should really be using to play, even if you are used to reading sheet music, called paper trained. If you're paper trained, you still need to know how your music sounds, and that should be the thing that guides you through. In an ideal world, you're using sheet music to essentially sight sing or sight audiate it and then playing out of your internal sense. I always say music comes from the inside out. You have to know how your music sounds and how your music feels. And if you do, you're good to go. Slow practice is very important. I know we're talking about playing fast, but have you ever heard somebody say, I can't play it slowly, I can only play it fast? That's a problem, right? I mean, it means they don't really know it, right? We kind of know that, right? Like, I'm not going to ask for hands of people that have said that before, but I'll give you one. Back in the day, before I, sort of understood that, like, no, you have to really know the music at every tempo. I mean, that can come down a little bit to your muscle memory being sort of tied to a particular tempo. But in terms of this audiation piece, we're talking about the mental musical side right now. You really have to, like, how deeply you know the intervals, the shape of the music, then each individual note, where it sits in the key, all of that stuff, which, knowledge of theory, knowing a little bit about theory can really help you place things like that. Is really crucial. The better that you really know your music, the better you can audiate. And remember, if you make it easier, you can play it faster. And that's true for your audiation as well. Now, if you want to play fast, you need to be able to audiate at or above your goal tempo. Yeah. In order to play well at any speed, you need to be able to hear the music in your head at that speed. Your auditory blueprint of how the music goes should be what guides you through the music, right? Even if you're playing from the sheet music. But a lot of times I hear people go, okay, well, I need to play this. I teach a lot of fiddlers that play for dancing, and you have to have a specific tempo. Otherwise, Have you ever tried to dance to music that's too slow? Anyway, you gotta have a certain speed to be able to play for dancing. So so you got to keep it up. And a lot of times, some of my students will go, I can't even hear it. Never mind like sing it. So I'm not asking you to sing, like use your vocal apparatus. And like we're trying to hear it in our head first. So you want to be able to audiate it at tempo. So your goal for the AP section. I know we don't know what P stands for yet. Please don't try to guess what P stands for. I want to introduce you to this concept first, though, so you're thinking about it moving forward. Hey, Josie, what's up? Oh, sorry.
Go unmute. Had to unmute myself and figure out where that is on my iPad.
No problem.
So I have students from time to time. I'll tell them, of course, hear it in your head, and then they say, "I can't."
Mhm.
What is your? And I'm sure there are some people here who are like, "Yeah, that's easy for you to say, but I have trouble hearing it in my head." You have any suggestions for how to do that? How to learn how to do that?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Josie. Absolutely. Yeah, so I mean my classic sort of go-to is having them sing it out loud. And this is not something that you're going to start with at your goal tempo, right? If your goal tempo is to play something like this fast, no, we're not going to do that, right? We're going to start with Mary had a little lamb, or just da 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 dum. And then maybe we're centered in the key at that point. We sing a little tune, and then we just sing the first note, maybe, and then you try to hold that in your head for as long as you can. And sometimes I have students hold it in their head for as long as they can, and then I have them open their eyes when they don't hear it anymore. So I can kind of have an idea of, when they're not thinking about that note anymore, they're not hearing it in their head anymore, they open their eyes. And a lot of times that's really helpful because then you can take that next step. This is a part of your learning by ear, right? You hear the note in your head and then you go hide and seek for it on your instrument. So you hear it in your head, and when you're learning something by ear, having somebody repeat it for you over and over again is great, but you might be worried like, oh, I don't want to bother them too much. They've played it for me enough times, I'll just get the recording from them and get a recording of them. And but if you have it in your ear, right, you have an unlimited number of listenings that you can do it. So yeah, I would recommend singing it out loud, and also singing out loud for somebody else if you're really not sure about pitch. If you're singing out loud, somebody can help tell you if you're sharp or flat or something like that, or just wildly off off base. And then you can kind of go from there. I've done that with some of my students, particularly ones that just don't sing at home. They don't come from families that sing at home or really listen to music, and so we really have to do a lot of that in lessons. And I find that just having them sing over and over again, different little, a lot of times it's little a minimal vocal range is involved with that too. But yeah, singing it out loud, trying to hold it in your head, and just make it a game, right? Humans learn best when we're playing, right? So just make it a game, see how long you can hear it in your head. So, yeah, so that's a good first step for that. Yeah, thank you so much, Josie, for that. I appreciate that. Okay. So your goal for the audiation and the AP section is, well, remember anyway in the LE section when we connected our physical actions to the sounds that we made. So the goal then was to be a scientific researcher and observe what physical actions you were doing to produce those sounds. So now we get to reverse engineer that. You try hearing a sound in your head, really imagine what you want it to sound like, and then try to feel in your body exactly what it would be like to play that sound. So this is using the thing that we built in the previous section. So you really imagine it, play air violin or air cello. Move your fingers around in your palm while you hear the notes in your head. This is a really great way to develop your ability to learn by ear. Most of learning by ear, I find, is actually about memorization. It's not about hunting and finding the notes. But it's like maybe 25-30% like go find the notes, and then the rest of it, like where do you put them? Right? Where do you put them in time? So just a quick note about learning by ear. I know that's not the topic of this talk particularly, but you want to be able to place in time the things that you're learning by ear. Otherwise, like, you don't get to keep them, right? If you don't know where you put them, don't get to keep them. You'll forget what you learned. So that is a thing that you can do, right? You can go on your palm or on your thumb or on your other arm, da 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 dun dun da dun dun da da dun dun, or something like that. Will help you start to connect your audiation with your body. If you're afraid of looking stupid, like do it at home with the door closed, like whatever. It's fine. It's really important that you have a map in your head of what your instrument feels like and a sound in your head that you expect to hear when you make that motion. You need to develop that connection. Again, music comes from the inside out. It's what are you hearing in your head? What are you feeling in your body? What are you expecting? And then you can go ahead and, start figuring out the connections between those. So I want to do a little experiment with you guys. We're going to do, this is going to make the most sense to string players, but we're going to try an air violin or air cello. So everybody make the shape of an air violin. Be sure to hang your elbows from your shoulders. Might as well, even though we're playing air violin, should still do it with good technique. So let your elbows hang. Good. All right. Now, I want you to place your air bow on your air strings and make your arm really heavy, just like so heavy that the bow would be like almost like cutting through the air strings, just so heavy on it. Now, I want you to move your air bow so slowly, just so slowly. Right? Now, if you aren't making a face like you just heard something awful, you need to develop this skill of, I do this, I'm expecting this sound, because if you play a string instrument, you might know that if you do this on a real instrument, make your arm really super heavy and move your bow super slowly, it's going to go, I'm not going to like, bless you guys with the sound that really makes on a violin, because I mean, if you've ever played a string instrument for like 2 seconds, you've heard the sound that I'm talking about. So, but if you were like kind of halfway expecting to hear like that crunching sound when you moved your bow slowly, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about connecting your internal auditory world with your internal proprioceptive world, right? That's what we're going after here. And again, the easier you can make that, the faster you can play. So you can do that sort of thing. You don't have to play this exact experiment, like, your neighbors will appreciate if you just try to do it with music instead. But try to really imagine what it feels like to play in a relaxed way. Try to do your fingers on your thumb, on your palm, something like that. And then really imagine like what's your contact point? How heavy is your arm? Like how fast is your bow going? Then try it on your instrument and like see how close you get. Now, when you do, really listen to the sound you get, right? Take note of what you did physically and what the sound actually was, right? Because it's a cycle, it's not a one-way process. Like you hear a sound in your head, you do that thing that you're connecting the physicality of the sound in your head to your instrument, and then you're checking your work, right? You hear what it is, and then you check back and go, oh, okay, that I did the thing that I was expecting to hear this sound, and then I got a different sound. So now, yeah, I can reverse engineer it. Now I know that when I do this, I actually get this sound. And you can make that adjustment as you go back and forth between your auditory processing and your proprioception. So again, you know, checking for and building these connections can eventually like be done back and forth in either order, right? As you work on refining your ability to hear and feel at deeper and more detailed levels, this is a skill you're going to develop for holistically playing your instrument, not just the piece of music that you're working on. Okay, now you get to know what it is. P is for phrasing. Phrasing is a way that you organize music, right, into phrases, right? This is finding longer, more musically mature phrases to play will both help increase your speed and help you play more musically. For example, when a person is learning to read, they first sound out words like k, at, right? And then as they practice and they improve their fluency, they read whole words at a time. The cat climbed the tree, right? Which is better than the cat, right? They're actually reading, right? But it's very like, you kind of don't really get the point of it as much. But as fluency builds, they read sentences and paragraphs with a developmental arc to tell a story, right? So that's phrasing, and it comes hand in hand with fluency. And you'll notice as someone gets more fluent in reading, right, they also just naturally read faster than they did when they were first learning. The speed goes hand in hand with that too, right? And again, this is the mental and musical side of it too, right? We talked about physical fluency already, and this is the mental fluency of it as well. So finding longer, more musically mature phrases is the order of the day for that. Basically, if you, for example, if I have a little phrase, let's say my little tune goes ba 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 ba. Cool, that's so creative. Yeah, that's my little phrase, right? Okay, so the way I just sang it, I was reading the cat went up, climbed the tree, and right, I was doing every single like individual word in that way. Well, what if instead of emphasizing every note, what if I did like strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak? That allows me to put in half the amount of effort. I'm only emphasizing every other note, right? And making a slightly longer group of things. Instead of going the cat, I'm going the cat, right? So already we're starting to group things together. So if I go da 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 da, it's already a little bit easier to listen to and a little bit easier to perform as well. What if I did every four? Da 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 da. Right? I mean, the longer, more musically mature phrase, it was easier to listen to. And I don't know if you noticed this, it went faster. I didn't even try to make it faster. It just was faster because it was easier. It was more fluent. I was thinking in longer chunks. So phrasing, I think, is a really highly underrated piece of playing faster. So how do we apply these in our practicing? Well, we can't do that without addressing, of course, the elephant in the room, right? The metronome. Oh, sorry, you know, you weren't going to come to a talk about playing faster without hearing about a metronome. So I have a few like basic suggestions that I have all my students do. First, you want to choose musically relevant sections to practice. Like you want to choose Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star versus like Cool Little, right? Necessarily like once you get good, you can do that. But you know, those only become musically relevant if you are still audiating the rest of the phrase. Go little star, right? So that's, again, it needs to be musically relevant and satisfying to practice. So that's, you have to honor how you connect with music in this process, right? You're playing music, you're not typing. So I want you to choose things that make sense to you to practice with a metronome. So next up, maybe you might choose to have the click go every 8 notes instead of every 4, for example. Right? That again helps you with the phrasing piece of it. Consider putting the metronome on the backbeat to, like, I don't know, lighten the mood. Dun, da, 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 da. Right? Your metronome, it should be fun. It should be your drummer friend that you can always rely on, right? It's the person that you want in the practice room grooving with you. Yeah. So please, though, always, 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 please know which notes or rests go on the click that you've chosen. Like, please, just otherwise you're just going to ignore the metronome. So just identify if you've got that backbeat, da 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 da. Make sure you know that you're going to line those up, and that's going to be that, because that way you can know if you were early or late, right? That's pretty important. Okay, so now we got to talk about to memorize or not to memorize. Okay, I might ruffle some feathers with this one. Before we get into the strategies of playing faster, we got to decide, is our goal to memorize the music or not? Because you can do this memorizing as you're practicing, or you could like learn to play it really fluently and then go back and memorize it, or you can just choose to continue to play things from the sheet music. I'm defining memorizing as playing without visually referring to sheet music as you play it. It's worth noting that if you learn something by ear, you're also memorizing it at the same time, right? You're learning the notes, playing and placing it in time. You've memorized it. So I might catch some flack for this from both the classical and the trad communities, but I believe that memorization is highly personal. I mean, there's so much, like so many skills that go into memorizing music. Everyone has different levels of talent for it, different needs for it, different amounts of benefit they derive from it. But I'd even go as far as to say that ensemble directors requiring performers to memorize things like might be like inherently ableist as a move. I mean, not everyone can memorize easily, nor can everyone perform better and more freely without the sheet music due to anxiety, lack of knowledge of how to practice well, something we're trying to fix this weekend, things like that. So it might be a little bit exclusive or not sort of inclusive in that way. So, however, for you personally, you want to know that the benefits of memorization are real and they're huge. If you can play something from memory, you really know it. Then you have the freedom to have more fun with it. And yes, if you can play it from memory, then you might know it well enough to potentially play it faster than if you had to look at the page. Right? That's the point, right? If you can make it easier, you can play it faster. Yeah. So, for the question of which one helps you play faster, to memorize or not to memorize, well, which one makes it easier for you to play, right? So remember, for playing fast, that's what it comes down to. So this could, of course, change based on the music or based on the circumstance, and that's okay. Be honest with yourself and, be open to being surprised. Okay, we're going to get into some techniques for practicing playing faster. Here are some techniques that we're going to go over in our remaining few minutes here. And I want to make sure that your leap pieces are in place, no matter how small of a chunk of music you choose to use this on. So we're going to go through these together, and I'm going to go ahead and grab my fiddle, and you get to watch me practice in public, because I asked my friend Andy to send me a new tune that I hadn't seen before. This is one that he's making me play for a Scottish country dance event. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, cool, a pianist wrote this. So this is a great time to demonstrate something practicing. It's not that I've never seen this before, but I'm still, making errors and reading the, the accidentals and things like that. So I figured that this would be a good one to start with. So some of these techniques you might be familiar with already, some you might not. Can you hear my fiddle? Cool. All right. This is the White Butterfly Reel by Andy Embry. I am not going to play it through for you because I'm going to practice it for you instead. Dotted rhythms. Here's how this is going to work. You're going to take a section that you want to practice, and you are going to go long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short, like that. And then you're going to go back and do it the other way. Short, long, short, long, short, long, short, long. I really like this technique a lot because it gives you time to think, but it also gives you a chance to coordinate the quick change between about half of the changes basically that you need to do between notes, and then when you flip it around you get the other ones. So long, short, long, that means it's fast in between these two guys. So I'm gonna find a nice dum ba-dum 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 ba-dum, long, short. In case anybody's interested, this metronome is at 90. Choose your own adventure for tempo. This is the tempo that I feel comfortable practicing in public in front of 176 of my closest friends. So your mileage may vary, faster or slower. You do you. It's good. So I'm going to do this pickup, and then I'm going to do long, short, long, short. And that is all of that I'm going to play for right now. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to do short, long. 1, 2. And then hopefully when I put it back together, now I noticed, I'm going to check in with my leap framework. I have like mental tension going on right now because of all the tech stuff that happened this morning, because of letting people in here, because of, oh, I don't know, practicing in front of a whole bunch of people, right? So I'm just going to breathe into that and go, you know what? You just did it. You're not dead. It's going to be fine. Okay, that helps a little bit. Now I'm going to check in with my efficiency piece. So for me, that is going to be, there's string changes in here: A string, D string, A, E, A, like that, and back to D. So I might consider, from the E piece, just playing the open strings. So I could do this in dotted rhythms as well. Or like so. That could be a way to do it, and I could discover if I'm flapping my arms around or if everything's like going okay. Okay, so that's the idea about using dotted rhythms. Next up, stop a note. So this is pretty cool. You basically choose a note to stop on. So these are grouped in groups of 4. So I'm going to stop here and play the rest of these fast, and then stop here. So I'm going to stop on every first note of a group. In fact, maybe I'll do a little bit bigger of a group here. So. Could do that. Good. Might as well do that with a metronome. And I want to tell you a little bit about, you can't hear me audiating, but I want to narrate for you a little bit about what's going on. So this is the second technique that I've used on this tune. I can tell you that at first I was expecting this note to be a G sharp, and I was pretty surprised when I got to this bar that it wasn't a G sharp, because we'd had that G sharp as a pickup, and this is something that can happen in types of minor scales, or having this leading tone, but it wasn't. And boy, let me tell you, I was sure surprised to see an F sharp after the C natural. That was not a thing that I'm particularly equipped to sight read very well. Again, Andy is a pianist. That's good. We get tunes from other instruments that we wouldn't necessarily have ended up with if we did them ourselves. So that's cool. We love it. So for me, my audiation is now slowly, my brain is slowly giving up the idea that this is a G sharp. Ba-dum, bum, bum. So now I'm following this line down. Bum, bum, bum. And I have in my mental map of this tune a little flag going, hey, this is different. This still needs your attention until you actually know how this tune goes. So that so like I said, my mental map of it, the audiation is changing there. So then after you know do your stopping on the first note, you would go through and stop on the second note. Like that. And then you stop on the third note. That's harder than it looks. Like so. And then stopping on the fourth note. Now, why did I screw that up, right? Because I didn't audiate it ahead of time. I didn't go ba da da dum, da 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 dum, da 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 dum, da 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 dum, right? That's why I messed that up. So now I'm going to learn my lesson and audiate this. Da 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 dum, da 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 dum, da 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 dum, da da da. Okay, I think I'm ready. That went a lot better. Okay, next one. Accenting notes as you go. So this is sort of similar to stop a note, except you're not stopping, you're just going to accent. So I'll turn my metronome back on for this. So I'm going to accent every first note. This is a really great one if you like to play music that grooves. This is so good for you. Again, tempo, you know, choose your own adventure. 1, 2. Now I'm going to accent the second one. 2. Oh, I discovered that that messed with my efficiency. Doing all of those up bow accents, I wasn't really sure about my string changes anymore. So I'm going to turn the metronome off, and I'm going to do this accenting notes. I could drop it, but drop the metronome. That's what I would really do in real life, is make the metronome slower so I can address this. But for right now, we're just going to go on. So that had been messing with my string changes. I was finding myself working way too hard suddenly. So I went ahead and addressed that by slowing it down. All right, I'm going to try accenting the third note. This is your classic backbeat. So 1, 2, 3. That's the one I'm most comfortable with, obviously. Then we have the same deal, which I'm anticipating having trouble with this fourth one as well. Da do da 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 da. 2. So this can totally change the feel of something too, which is kind of a cool way to practice improvising in a rhythmic way. Highly recommend this from just a purely fun standpoint, and developing that part along with your leap framework here. So one last little bit here. So Lego blocks at your goal tempo. So this involves taking a very tiny chunk. Since I'm doing this sort of, oh no, there's 2 more that we're doing. It's not really last. I'm going to take this little tiny chunk. And so I've been at 90. My goal tempo for this is actually dance tempo 112 for Scottish country dancing. So it's a little bit faster. I'm going to take a moment to breathe. Here I go. Just going to take a little tiny piece. Okay, that's fine. Nobody died. I'm going to do it again. 1, 2. Okay, all my leap pieces are still in place. I'm going to now take another Lego block that's going to be this. Da-da-dum. And it's going to come in between the beat, unfortunately. Like so. Breathing. And then I'm going to stick them together, chunk them together on this overlapping A. 1, 2. Right? And so that's what we've got there. Oh, good. I don't know how that happened. That's interesting. All right. Well, moving on. That's how you do Lego blocks at your goal tempo. What is this? What is that? Well, okay, back we go. Backwards chaining. I don't know how that ended up there. Zoom was not sharing its mysteries with me. So in this case, I might, if I wanted to get through this whole little passage, backwards chaining is something I can do. I can start at the end, da-da-dum, and I can go just on this part if I want to practice this like whole section. Now, I like backwards chaining with some caveats. I like that it allows you to practice the end a little bit more deeply. And instead of just starting at the beginning and going till you screw up and starting at the beginning and going till you screw up, right? You get to learn the end really well. So backwards chaining would be like, and then I add a little bit more before it and play till the end. Right? And then you add a little bit more and chain it through until you get the whole piece. The thing that I don't particularly like about it is that you don't really get the context of what you're learning. So I would say I really like this technique if you use it this way. Gonna audiate this part until I get to the part I'm playing. Yeah. So, or, you know, or put it on with a recording or something like that so that you get it in context. Like I said, I really like it if you use it properly. That's it. Remember, if you can make it easier, you can play it faster. I hope I've convinced you of that today. And if you'd like to work on this with me in AltStrings Academy, I would be more than happy to help you out with that. Yeah, thank you so much. If you have questions, fortunately, we don't really have time for questions, but you can, I mean, you all have my email at this point. Well, you can also reach me through carolinmccaskey.com. If you're interested in altstringsacademy.com, you can go check that out. If you have the VIP pass, then you have your free month of AltStrings Academy. So that's pretty fun. I hope to see some of you there. You should come and check it out. So thank you so much, everybody. I hope you enjoy the rest of the summit. Really appreciate your attendance, and it was great to see so many wonderful familiar faces and so many wonderful new faces. Thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of the summit.